Newsradio 1070 WKOK presents On the Mark. It's a chance to voice your opinion on the events that affect life in the Susquehanna Valley. Call 1-800-795-9565 or email onthemark@wkok.com. Now, here are your hosts for On the Mark, Mark Lawrence and Than Mitchell.
Greetings and welcome all aboard the
Hi, Mark.
What's it like to be ultra-liberal?
I'm a liberal today.
No kidding. What's it like?
Well, I'm a little worried about you. You've gone too far to the right.
You care deeply now, and all of a sudden people's feelings, and you suddenly care about the poor and the
I
planet.
do. I think we need to take care of all of them right away.
You're no longer,
Let's get on that, shall we?
You're going to get rid of that great big SUV, and suddenly...
I rode up here on a bicycle today in honor of our guest.
I thought seriously about putting the correct one in for the appropriate hosts, and then I thought, nah, I'm going to leave this one in and see what Joe does with it.
Right. Yeah, nice
I'll do my Than Mitchell impersonation.
All right, and so you
Love
now...
everybody.
You
Make
now
peace, not war.
You now oppose the death penalty. You're a pacifist. you care about the planet.
I've had an epiphany.
Yeah, it would be a major 180. Holy smokes. You did a 360, then a 180. That's what's for you to care about.
Let's just say I'm spinning rather
things.
rapidly at the moment.
Well, a kinder, gentler Joe McGranaghan is across the table from me. Good morning, everyone. I am Mark Lawrence, same as I was ever, so no change here. Ultra free-thinking, former Republican, former independent, current Democrat.
Tree hugger.
And, I love hugging trees. I think I even have a picture of me actually hugging a tree.
I wouldn't doubt it. I would not doubt it.
Everybody who is a tree hugger has a tree hugger picture. Do you have a tree hugger picture?
I do not.
I have the fish kissing picture of you, though.
Oh, do you?
You're kissing a bass somewhere?
Yeah. A big one or a little one?
It's a little one.
Yeah, I had one about this big that...
Right.
Yeah.
It sounds like a whole topic for a program, a guy kissing a fish.
Yeah.
Well, if you love the planet, these kind of things, right before you throw them back.
I love
That's
fish.
Right. Put them through pain, put a hook in their mouth, drag them out, give them a kiss, and throw them back in.
Actually, we researched that. The fish actually don't feel that.
That's
they don't
what you
have the
say.
nerve endings.
I don't believe
in
that.
I don't
area.
believe it either.
Hey, you can believe what you want. I don't know, Mark. I believe science. How about you? Because that's what you always say. I believe science, and science says that they don't feel it.
Well,
Did you read that in Trout Unlimited magazine?
I believe that's the article I found, but I don't know if it's Trout Unlimited or not. But I found it in a fishing magazine.
There's something
not
fishy
long
about
ago.
this whole
Yeah,
topic.
I read
to
the
me.
same thing.
But Mark believes science.
Trout's Life magazine. He read it in Trout's Life magazine, saying it doesn't hurt us to be
Please,
caught.
just put a hook in our mouth and throw us back in, give us a kiss, and we're on our way.
I don't. It was a fishing magazine. I just don't remember what one
I
it
would
was.
think so.
What was it, Carpenter's? A kiss for luck, and we're on our way?
Ooh, I don't know.
So if you don't believe in that piece of science, Mark, what other science don't you believe?
Anything that runs counter to his
show
personal
me some
beliefs.
scientific evidence that fish don't feel being caught.
Read the article.
Well, show it to me.
Read the article. I did show it to you,
Oh,
and
you
you
never
chose.
did.
Oh, I put it on the screen, and you chose not to look at it.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
We'll put it back up again, and we'll
What a
force him to
ridiculous-
look at it.
You know, it might not hurt them, but I tell you, they don't like it.
Yeah, I
You
can
know,
Well,
that's
now,
right.
very
now
good
that's,
point.
That's for sure.
That's the point the article was
That's a
making.
very
They
good
don't.
point.
They don't necessarily feel it, but they feel the.
Yeah.
Pressure.
Yeah,
The pressure of it, not the pain.
Well, when you haul them out of water, they can't breathe, can they? I think that would be a somewhat
very well.
distressing for them.
I don't know. Have you hauled a catfish out of the water? They live pretty long before they out
I
of
haven't
the
hauled
water.
anything out of the water.
Yeah, you're
Kevin.
right. They can live overnight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Bullheads, those things can
The
last
boneheads.
for...
Well, we got more than our share
Yes.
of those around here.
Welcome aboard, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to see some on the webcam, it is up and running. Ultra clear image, super sharp audio, brand new angle, and I think the focus is pretty good. And as our guest starts to progress a little bit more, we'll have him in even sharper focus. Is my mic okay, Kevin? I sound funny.
No different than normal, but
Oh, okay.
no, you do sound a little thin. I think if you balance out the mics a little bit, you'll sound a little bit better.
Check. Good afternoon,
That's
everybody.
better.
Welcome. All right. Thank you very much. The webcam is up and running. It is simply an opportunity. Kevin loves it when we do air checks.
It's my favorite part of the
on
program.
the air. Yes,
Yeah, let's
absolutely.
discuss the equipment.
All right. So, yes,
I'd like
absolutely.
my mouse back and a keyboard, please.
Who was it that told you 20 years ago, never complain about a broken piece of equipment
I did.
on the air? Thank you. Okay, I was talking to Kevin, but you jump right in.
I don't know, but I was about ready to say the same answer, so.
Jump right in if you think you know the answer. On the Mark's brought to you by the Sunbury Motor Company, family-owned dealership since 1915, 4th Street, Sunbury, and routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf. Find out lots more about them at sunburymotors.com. You can find out about the fine set of automobiles that Kevin has had an opportunity to drive, most of which get more than 30 miles to the gallon on the highway and 20-something in the city. And so he's going to tell you about the Ford Escape. They have multiple escapees over at the Sunbury Motor Company, and they would just love to put you in one with a big sale to make sure that the 2014s keep moving out of there. So he's going to tell us more about the titanium edition that is coming up, sunburymotors.com. Lenape Solar email in basket open. You simply email on the mark at WKOK.com, and in many cases we do in fact read your email on the radio, where we got a couple of emails pending, so we'll try to sift through some of those. Lenape itself is located at 140 South 2nd Street in Sunbury, and they got a photo array display set up for you with not only the solar thermal panels that generate some heat that you can pipe to wherever you want it, whether you want to heat your domestic hot water in that manner, or supplement the heating of the water during the winter at your home, or maybe you got a greenhouse or you're going to do something good with that hot water. They invite you to do that. But they also got solar voltaic systems, which use the sun to generate electricity. You can use the power yourself, charge something, charge your plug-in hybrid automobile that Than across from me is going to have someday, and you can just hook yourself up directly to the sun and get a shock from Lenape Solar. LenapeSolar.com is their main website. I'm very glad to say that Ed Perry is back. He's foolishly returned about 4 times now. Climate expert is what I call him, but ultra-informed on this. Wildlife person, active fisherman, avid biker, a man from Center County. He is from the National Wildlife Federation. He's their Pennsylvania outreach coordinator for the Federation's climate campaign, and he's going to refute basically everything that Ben said on Monday. Welcome aboard.
I am. Thank you.
I may ask him a few questions that might led some light to the subject.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, when we last spoke, there's a climate conference underway now. Move just another inch to that, Mike, if you would, please. There's a climate conference underway that should be just about wrapping up in New York. And, of course, we've had all kinds of data in the past 2 or 3 weeks that relates to our planet warming. So what's the state of the climate change discussion?
Well, actually, I was at that march this past Sunday, and it was amazing to see how many people came from all over the country, all the way from California to participate in this march. And we're trying to put pressure on our elected officials to do something about climate change. And I've gotten it. This past winter was pretty rough in Pennsylvania, as we all know. And the interesting thing was, even though it was pretty rough, it really was not much different than we had 25 years ago. And actually, 2013 tied for 2002 for the 4th hottest year on record, which is why they call it global warming, not United States warming, not Pennsylvania warming.
Okay, so we are consistently getting warmer. That's irrefutable, right?
Yep, every decade in the past 40 years has been hotter than the previous decade, and the decade of the 2000 to 2010 was the hottest decade on record.
Okay, and Joe, there are folks that are saying we're not getting warmer. What do you know about that?
Well, I'm not going to argue that point completely, because I think there's some evidence to me on both sides. But I was interested in a letter you wrote, Ed, to the Center Daily Times supporting President Obama's plan for combating climate change. In that letter, you say, at present, coal-fired power plants are allowed to emit as much carbon pollution into the atmosphere as they want. The president not only plans to restrict pollution from new power plants, but reduce pollution from existing power plants. Critics of that proposal, including Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia, he responds by saying critics of the proposed rules against or argue, then this is for changing the carbon emissions in power plants, that they will cripple the coal industry by effectively banning the construction of new plants and hurt the economy. The facts are plain and simple. Coal provides the greatest share of electricity we use, generating around 40% of our power. If these regulations go into effect, American jobs will be lost, electricity prices will soar, and economic uncertainty will grow. How do you respond to those charges from Senator Manchin?
Well, as you know, the president's plan has not been implemented, and the share that coal generates has dropped by about 14%. And the reason is that the gas companies are putting the coal companies out of business. These are market forces at work that have nothing to do with any of the president's plan or any pollution controls or any effort to tackle global warming. This is all got to do with another industry that is rising, that is putting an old technology out of business.
Well, Michael Byrne, who's the Sierra Club executive director, might disagree with you. He was asked if a new power plant, if these rules would effectively prevent construction of any new power plants fueled by coal. And the question was, can you build a coal plant after this? No, said Mr. Byrne. It's not commercially feasible to build a new coal plant, period.
That's correct. There will be no new coal plants built unless they can use carbon capture and storage. Mm-hmm. Now, the coal companies have been talking about this for about 15 years, and they haven't done a single thing to prove that they can do this.
What is carbon capture and storage? Explain that to me, because I'm not familiar with that concept.
Yeah, they capture the carbon pollution as it comes, before it even comes out of the stack, and they pressurize it so it becomes a liquid, and then by pipeline they inject it into areas that are geologically stable. And right now they've only have a few of these commercially operable. There's one in the North Sea where they're injecting carbon into these oil wells, oil fields. It's not been proven to be commercially feasible. So the coal industry has, I was at this march in Pittsburgh, and it was to support EPA's rule for existing power plants. And I talked to one of the coal miners, and who was in the march. He was a marshal there, keeping his miners from spilling onto the sidewalk. And he told me, he says, our emphasis on EPA is totally misguided. The coal company has known for 15 years that this was coming, and they never did anything about it. And now they're busing us in here to protest EPA's rule. We're focusing on the wrong thing. The coal company should have been cleaning up their act a long time ago.
Is there technology to clean up coal?
Actually, there is. The First Energy and Homer City coal companies have already said that they're going to be able to meet these new standards that the president proposes before the 2030 deadline. The Homer City coal facility was one of the worst. It was the worst polluting plant in the United States for sulfur dioxide emissions. And 3 years ago, they announced they were going to sue EPA because they said they could not meet these new standards. Well, the plant was sold to another group, and they just said they spent $700 million to clean up the plant. And they said, we are going to be able to meet these new standards, and on top of that, this is not going to raise rates for our customers. So First Energy, Homer City Coal Company, and others have already said we're going to be able to meet these standards and not raise the rates for our customers.
Are they pretty much unique in that regard?
I think it's going. These old coal companies, old coal plants, companies are going to have to come to grips with either fixing them up to meet new standards so they don't continue to foist pollution off on us and make us pay for what happens to our health from these polluting plants, or they're going to have to retire them. There's no question about it. And the gas companies really are the ones that are forcing these plants out of business.
And the gas customers are benefiting. Industries, residential, and of course the state has provided incentives for the gas companies to connect even more people to natural gas. So yeah, the technology doesn't exist in widespread use, but it exists in the laboratory to make coal plants clean, but coal companies haven't had an incentive to do it in the past. So it is true that there isn't sufficient technology readily available to coal companies for them to comply with the laws today.
Well, let's look at it this way. In your letter again, which I found very interesting, you said to replace these dirty fuels, the president proposes to expand responsibly develop renewable energy on public lands, from solar energy on desert lands in the Southwest to offshore wind on the Great Lakes and off the Atlantic coast. We have limitless potential for safe, clean, American-made energy. But environmentalists have hit out at a giant new solar farm in the Mojave Desert, as mounting evidence reveals that birds flying through the extremely hot thermal flux surrounding the towers are being scorched. Now, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to...
I have a cramp.
Okay. It seems to me that if they were proposing to put a pipeline in the Southwest Desert, environmentalists would be screaming bloody murder. But here you're, in effect, supporting putting these giant mirrors there that generate a thermal flux that are harmful to birds.
You know, everything we do to tackle climate change is going to have some negative effect. If you put windmills in the middle of the ocean, there's going to be strikes on birds. If you put solar plants in the Mojave Desert, you're going to affect something. The way that I look at this is kind of like a battlefield surgeon. You've got to save what you can, and if you can't save certain things, they're just going to have to go by the wayside. I just don't see any other way to tackle this, because if the scientists are correct and 50% of all species on Earth are going to go extinct if we don't take action, there's going to be some winners and some losers in this. And you know, you don't want to see any other species affected by taking action. But I don't think there's any way that we're going to be able to avoid that. The best we're going to be able to do is cite these things as best we can to minimize the impact, realizing no matter what we do, there's going to be some effect.
Well, and that particular type of solar unit you're talking about, Joe, is just one type. There are many types, and what you were more aptly describing is broad fields of solar panels that take a wide geography. And what Joe was talking about was one that specifically focuses the sun's rays on a single point source, which is a super generator of electricity from solar. Well, let's continue our discussion. We're well into our conversation about climate change. Climate Campaign Pennsylvania coordinator from the National Wildlife Federation, Ed Perry's with us. Joe is the person who's learning more every day about this topic, and if
I've
nothing,
forgotten more about it than you ever knew.
If nothing else, he has an open mind, and meaning everything he learned yesterday is already gone.
Right.
So, okay.
And what I learned today will go this evening.
All right. 1-800-795-9565 is our famous toll-free line. 1-800-795-9565. We'd love to hear from you on this climate topic. And Lenape Solar email in basket is open. That means you simply email on the market at WKOK.com on the topic of climate. We'll read your question on the radio or your observation. Our main sponsor is the Sunbury Motor Company.
Every price on every new Kia has been reduced and retagged to the lowest prices of the year.
Wanna see ya in a Kia. Sunbury Motors Kia.
You'll fall for a new Kia at Sunbury Motors Kia with 0% APR financing. Yes, 0 for up to 60 months on all remaining 2014 Optima and Optima hybrids. The iconic 2014 Kia Soul starts at an incredible $14,769. Sunbury Motors Kia has 2014 Rios clearance price starting at $14,951. The 5-star safety-rated 2015 Forte LX as low as $16,865. And 2015 Serenos starting at $22,456.
Yes.
Remember, all new Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. So hurry in to Sunbury Motors Kia on the Strip at Hummel's Wharf or at sunburymotors.com and fall for your new Kia today.
Tax and tags extra. Must qualify. Specialty incentives applied. Special financing to well-qualified customers through KMF.
All loans subject to on-deck score approval must be in business at least 1 year to apply. Are you a small business owner who needs working capital? At On Deck, we can help. We focus on your business operations and cash flow, not just your personal credit score. And we're ready to help with loans of up to $250,000. True business loans, not a credit card advance. On Deck provides financing to hundreds of different types of businesses like restaurants, auto body shops, healthcare, and service providers. So if you've been frustrated by the paperwork and long decision times of traditional lenders, see why so many small business owners are turning to On Deck funding they need. Call now and speak with an On Deck funding specialist. Our simple application process takes just minutes and funding could be available in just one business day. On Deck has an A+ Better Business Bureau rating and is backed by Google Ventures. We've provided over $1 billion nationwide to businesses like yours, so visit us at ondeck.com or call us now at 800-325-6384. That's 800-325-6384. 800-325-6384.
Steve Jones from the Steve Jones Show. We'll talk about the Steelers, Eagles, and the Nittany Lions getting ready for Northwestern on homecoming. 3 to 5, News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Welcome back to WKOK Live Telephone Talk Show. It is entitled On the Mark. I'm the aforementioned Mark Lawrence. Joe McGranaghan is here.
As soon as our guest, I've already forgotten. Got my open mind. It just went right through.
Well, yeah, Ed Perry is with us.
Thank you.
From the
Ed,
National
nice
Wildlife
to see you again.
Federation. Avid biker. Kevin sends us a clipping. It's from the Daily Mail, which is a tabloid overseas.
Oh, yes. So we have to make sure we identify it as a tabloid, even though it's on several other, like the New York Times.
Okay.
Is the New York Times a tabloid, Mark? I'm not quite sure.
I think the tabloid refers to the size of the paper that it's printed on more than the content
Thank
of it.
you.
Yeah, that's exactly what Mark meant.
Anyway.
Right.
While fish may struggle to get free, the scientists say this does not mean they're in pain. Instead, they show little effect from injuries and toxins that would leave humans in agony. In their experience, reported in the scientific journal Fish and Fisheries, researchers inserted needles into the jaws of rainbow trout. And Jim Rose, professor of zoology and physiology at the University of Wisconsin, who led the project, said despite large injections of acid and bee venom that would cause severe pain to a human, the trout showed remarkably
So these people
little.
are torturing fish for the name of science?
Yeah, that's what Mark was going to say next. Yeah, that's what was coming next.
I think that's wonderful. Thank you, Kevin. That makes me feel better.
You like the idea
about
of torturing
trout fishing.
fish, do you?
That's pretty interesting. I didn't know they were conducting those kind of experiments.
I'm sure the government's funding it.
This was a experiment about 2 years ago that contradicted a study another 7 years earlier.
And what was that study? Saying that the fish suffered immensely when they were caught?
That they found some signs of the same type of receptors, interceptors, some kind of scepter that humans would have.
Okay.
Fish trauma.
Fish scepters. These the staffs that kings carry around.
No scepters. I'm not quite sure. It was some scepter.
All right. Well, thank you. All frivolity aside, we do have a dead serious topic here, and it is climate change. And we have a very informed man with us, Ed Perry from the National Wildlife Federation Climate Campaign. He's their Pennsylvania outreach coordinator. So on the subject of climate change, of course, Joe Wisely is a skeptic when he hears that this debate is over. But in terms...
No, I'm not a skeptic because of that. And what Ed and I were talking about during the break, and I think it's his point about a balance, I agree with. I think everything's a balance. But my difference is I add jobs and people's livelihoods into that equation where I'm not certain others do. You know, I think before I would close a power plant, I would be concerned about how many people were out of work and what the impact is on the economy, in addition to trying to sustain the environment. I think they're all important. I just don't know how you draw the line. You guys draw it a little further on the side of the environment than I do. I draw it more on the side of trying to protect people's jobs and their employment.
Yeah, but who is closing power plants isn't the EPA or the president or the Wildlife Federation or the climate change people. It's the market. It's natural gas.
But it's economic conditions based on federal regulation that are changing it.
No, it's not. That is not true. That's not true. It turns out that gas is just cheaper and easier to produce than coal. And, you know, most people think that the coal we use to generate electricity in Pennsylvania is coming from Pennsylvania. It's not. It's coming from Wyoming because the coal fields in the eastern coal fields are almost out of business. The Department of Energy estimates that their production is going to go from 284 million tons per year to less than 100 million tons just in a few years. And the reason is that they are having to remove the tops of mountains in West Virginia to get a 23-inch thick seam of coal. The coal seams here are really played out, and they're much deeper. In Wyoming, they have a 60-foot seam of coal right at the surface. So because they have to truck this coal all the way from Wyoming, this is making natural gas, which we're getting right here in Pennsylvania, a lot cheaper and easier. It's the market and another industry that's putting the coal companies out of business.
Well, I can tell you that our local coal-fired plant, I was told every day the way they work it is that they had to go, they were put online what they could produce so many kilowatts at such and such a price. Their price was never competitive. And the reason their price wasn't competitive was because of the things that they had to do, the scrubbers they had to install, the cost of maintaining that, and the cost, not the cost of the coal, but the cost of running a coal-fired plant and all the regulations that were attached to it. Now, they're in the process of converting to natural gas, but you don't like that any better, do you, Ed?
Well, let me first go back to your one point about the things they have to do.
Okay.
The reason they have to do this is their operation is harming people. It's affecting our people's lives and our health. And who is paying for the cost of the 6,000 premature deaths every year from coal-fired power plants? Who is paying for the 250,000 cases of asthma that our kids get from breathing in the soot that comes from coal-fired power plants? And the answer is that we are. The coal companies should not be complaining about having to clean up their act and bearing these costs. This should be a part of their business. And for over 100 years, we have been bearing the cost of the health problems that these industries have caused.
I've got to ask, where did you get those numbers?
The Environmental Protection Agency studies on the health effects of coal-fired power plants is published in the Federal Register, and you can go online and see all of the impacts from breathing in coal. And if you don't believe that, take a look at the pictures of China in their cities from burning coal-fired power plants when they can't see across the street.
Well, I gauge that I'm older than you by some small amount, and I grew up in Harrisburg where we had a coal-fired furnace, and almost everybody in the block had coal-fired.
We did.
And we're still living, Ed.
Yeah. Well, you are among the luckies. This air pollution affects the very young and the very old. I mean, there's been a lot of studies done on this. If you don't believe in the science, well, then we have nothing to discuss.
Right. It says coal causes baldness, too, so...
Well, that's it.
There you have it.
Right. He wins that argument.
That explains a lot. All right, you're listening to News Radio 1070 WKOK Sunbury. Joe McGranaghan, my co-host, Ed Perry, the guest. This is WKOK Sunbury's On the Mark.
CBS News, I'm Frank Settapani. Day 2 of the Allied air campaign in Syria featured new strikes on ISIS military targets. CBS's David Martin tells us about one mission against a staging area along the border with Iraq.
8 ISIS vehicles were damaged by U.S. aircraft, and at the same time, an Arab aircraft, which was also flying reconnaissance, joined in that strike.
ISIS ground forces operating at the other end of the country have been joined by reinforcements in the battle for a key city along the border with Turkey. The fighting in Kobani has driven well over 130,000 civilians from their homes. A government alert to law enforcement agencies around the country warns about possible payback for the airstrikes in Syria. CBS's Bob Orr has the latest on that.
The bulletin which we've seen says, we believe these strikes will contribute to homegrown violent extremists' broader grievances about U.S. military intervention in predominantly Muslim lands. But that said, sources tell us at the moment there is no known specific credible threat to the U.S.
ISIS should get more than a passing mention in the speech President Obama will deliver at the UN about an hour from now. CBS's Margaret Brennan tells us he'll call on member nations to join the anti-ISIS coalition.
That's a rare move for any U.S. president, and he's doing it to ask the world to cut off the flow of funds and fighters to ISIS.
People who go to government and state websites to buy health insurance next year could be pleasantly surprised by the range of choices. Live to CBS News correspondent Dave Barrett.
There will be more choices, 315 overall, on federal and state insurance marketplaces. This year, a couple of states, New Hampshire and West Virginia, had no choices. Each had just one private insurer. Now West Virginia will have 2 choices. New Hampshire residents may have 5. Nationally, the nearly 25% increase means more competition, and government officials say that could mean lower premiums.
The big wildfire burning 60 miles east of Sacramento is more than a third contained, but Dennis Matheson with CAL FIRE says progress isn't coming easy.
The terrain is very unforgiving, very steep and hilly terrain, rocky, a lot of hazards, falling trees, things of that nature.
This is harvest season for law enforcement officials in Europe, and CBS's Larry Miller tells us the pickings have been very good.
European crime busters say they've made more than 1,000 arrests in a 9-day sweep across the continent, calling this the largest attack on organized crime ever in Europe. Crime agency Europol says the operation targeted drug dealing, illegal immigration, tax fraud, theft, and counterfeiting. It also says it saved 30 Romanian children from sexual trafficking. Larry Miller, CBS News, London.
The World Health Organization says an Ebola vaccine might be available in large quantities by the end of the year. The virus has already killed close to 3,000 people in 5 West African nations. S&P futures are up 2.5 points. This is CBS News.
All loans subject to OnDeck score approval must be in business at least 1 year to apply. Are you a small business owner who needs working capital? At OnDeck, we can help. We focus on your business operations and cash flow, not just your personal credit score. And we're ready to help with loans of up to $250,000. True business loans, not a credit card advance. OnDeck provides financing to hundreds of different types of businesses like restaurants, auto body shops, healthcare, and service providers. So if you've been frustrated by the paperwork and long decision times of traditional lenders, see why so many small business owners are turning to OnDeck for the funding they need. Call now and speak with an OnDeck funding specialist. Our simple application process takes just minutes, and funding could be available in just 1 business day. OnDeck has an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. We provided over $1 billion to businesses. So if you're a small business owner who needs financing for your business, visit us at ondeck.com or call us at 800-293-9173. That's 800-293-9173. 800-293-9173.
There's a new man behind the wheel at Cadillac, and he's taking GM's luxury division for a little road trip. CBS News correspondent Bill Whitney has the story.
Despite positive reviews of recent models, General Motors' luxury brand is struggling against stiff competition from Germany, Audi, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz. So Cadillac's new president, recently lured away from Infiniti, is moving its headquarters from Detroit to New York. Johan Denishen says there's no other city in the world where the inhabitants are more immersed in a premium lifestyle. The move, he says, allows the Cadillac team to share experiences with premium brand consumers and develop attitudes in common with our audience. Bill Whitney, CBS News.
Most product engineering and design will remain in Detroit, and Cadillacs will continue to be built at assembly plants in Michigan, Texas, Canada, Mexico, and China. New York is Cadillac's 4th best U.S. market after Texas, Florida, and Michigan. Frank Sedapani, CBS News.
You don't have to chain yourself to your office computer to be productive. There's a better way. Use GoToMyPC, the secure remote access tool from Citrix that turns any computer, tablet, or smartphone into your office computer. With GoToMyPC, you can access your network, use any program, save, edit, send any file from anywhere. It sets up in minutes and is super easy to use. Try GoToMyPC free for 30 days. Download the free app, then visit GoToMyPC.com and click the Try It Free button. That's GoToMyPC.com.
America was built by people with a few dollars and a dream. And while many don't know it, there's one path to success that still only requires a dream and about $10. That's right. If your dream is to start or grow your business, something as simple as the right business card could make all the difference. And today at Vistaprint.com, you can get 500 full-color business cards for only $9.99. That's right, only $9.99. Just go to Vistaprint.com and enter promo code 4747 at checkout. That's Vistaprint.com, promo code 4747.
Newsradio 1070 WKOK presents On the Mark. It's a chance to voice your opinion on the events that affect life in the Susquehanna Valley. Call 1-800-795-9565 or email onthemark@wkok.com. Now, here are your hosts for On the Mark, Mark Lawrence and Joe McGranaghan.
All righty. Vibrant discussion continues here on WKOK's live telephone talk show On the Mark. The webcam is up and running, so we invite you to watch our program. Kevin Hurst at the controls. He's the greatest engineer the world has ever known, and not only this world, but this entire universe, and in fact, this solar system, and, well, the whole universe, and other universes, too, we think, anyway, as much as we know about them. We think Kevin is the best engineer that ever was. Lenape Solar email in basket. Speaking of the sun, Lenape Solar email in basket open. You simply email on the mark at WKOK.com. Many cases, read your email on the radio. Lenape, fastest growing solar company in the valley. Solar power, not just a good choice, but the best choice. They'd love to hook you up with a low-cost HVAC system, too. Not only can they help you with the sun, but they'll also help you with the Mitsubishi heat pumps, the small units on the outside, little unit on the inside, a ductless system, to be clear, and they can install one of those at a very efficient price for you, affordable price, and it'll be very efficient heating in the winter and very efficient cooling in the summer. No more lugging those big air conditioners in and out of the window. For 10 grand-ish, you can end up with an HVAC system that'll save your back a ton of money. And the Sunbury Motor Company, proud to put Kevin Hur in a brand new car each week. He's driving a 2014 Ford Escape, which he's going to be telling us about in great detail as this hour progresses. Kevin, what's the ideal time for you to elaborate on your nice car that you're driving?
Whenever you're comfortable.
Okay. Well, how about now?
I can do that.
It's all-wheel drive.
Actually, it's four-wheel drive.
Okay.
Four-wheel drive Ford Escape Titanium package, which means it has a couple extra added features. One of the things that's added to the Titanium package is the intercooled turbo engine, which is a 4-cylinder engine, makes it actually run like a 6. So you get the economy of a 4, but the power of a 6. Four-wheel drive on the fly can make the adjustment itself. You don't need to shift it. You don't need to do anything else to it. 21 city, estimated highway 28. It is the perfect sport utility vehicle. And they call it a sport utility vehicle, Mark, because if you remember, the Escape originally about 3 or 4 years ago had more of an SUV feel to it. Well, now they've changed the design a little bit to make it a little bit sportier. So if you want to drive something a little bit sporty, a little more fun, a little more entertaining, because let's face it, you're in the vehicle an average of 1 hour a day in the Susquehanna Valley. The average commute is 30 minutes to and from work. You might as well be comfortable. You might as well have some fun. Plus, you can actually have the added storage space with some hidden floorboard space, as well as the fold-down seats, so you have room to haul things, and you can put your kayak on the top easily.
What do you do for fun in there, Kevin? You said that we should have some fun. I just want to know what you're doing for fun in that car.
Driving.
Okay.
Driving. That's the beauty of this. Because you're absolutely safe with the ABS, the brake assist, and of course the airbags that are basically all around the entire vehicle. One of the things I'm sorry, Mark, I was going to say, one of the things I noticed, this engine, the way they built the engine, that if you do have frontal impact, instead of the engine coming into the cab, it will actually slide underneath the vehicle. Huh. It's really interesting the way they built that for added safety.
Don't test it, okay?
I would rather not know how. Yeah, I'd rather not see that in person.
You're sitting on the motor, right?
You could.
You hope you are.
Nasty collision.
Right.
The trouble is that you're the first one there, Joe, when this happens,
That's
and
true.
You don't want to be that person. Well, thank you very much, Kevin. There's a reason they call it Escape. Every day at 5:15, Kevin runs out and jumps into it and makes his escape. So he is glad to say that the day is done. It's a
I'm
titanium
just jealous.
edition.
He's got these wonderful cars every week, and now this one. I always think that's a great car.
The new car fumes are affecting him, so he's
Well,
changing.
that's why I want to know what he's doing in there to have fun.
Breathing. All right. Well, thank you. We're going to read some news headlines as we approach the bottom of the hour. Right now, we're going to reintroduce our guest, Ed Perry's here from the National Wildlife Federation, climate expert. And we got to talk about the Clean Power Plan. We've been alluding to it 100 different ways. So we'll get to that in a second, but we have some emails. One, recently purchased, I purchased a bag of coal with the words low sulfur coal on the side. Are you familiar with coal, Ed, that would be labeled as low sulfur coal?
No, but it depends on where the coal comes from. I really don't know the chemical composition of coal in terms of which is low sulfur and which is not. In other words, what part of the country these low sulfur coal comes from. I do know that some of the coal from certain regions has less sulfur than others.
All right.
Do you remember the old advertising campaign? It would be before your time a little bit, from Phoebe Snow and the Lackawanna Railroad. Phoebe Snow was a fictional character. Because their railroad engines burned anthracite coal, she could wear a white dress on the train, never get any soot or dirt on her. Are there benefits? I mean, is one type of coal, from an environmental standpoint, better than another?
I don't know that.
Okay.
Phoebe Snow, isn't she
Don't
a
you remember?
singer?
No, Phoebe Snow was an original character created for an ad campaign. I believe the singer took that name in deference to the ad
I
campaign.
was going to say she's a singer, too.
Right. 1-800-795-9565 is our telephone number. Email. Protecting the livelihoods of people, Joe, is great and important, except that climate change is an issue of health and life. Coal is literally poisoning our air and water, which are basic necessities of life, and threatening the futures of our children and grandchildren. I don't want anyone to lose their job, but why do conservatives always have to focus on the closing of coal plants when you could be focused on creating wind and solar jobs? Solar and wind employ more Americans than the coal industry right now. How many manufacturing jobs could Pennsylvania create if they did the right thing and addressed climate change?
May I address that with Ed for a minute, because I think she brings up an interesting point. We talked earlier, I did grow up in Harrisburg in the 1940s, and everybody had a coal-fired furnace, and you look at Pittsburgh back in those days and the steel plants, everything was just pouring out smoke. Look at all the smokestacks. It used to be the Chamber of Commerce would point to the fact that our town has all these smokestacks. That means we're a growing, thriving town. That isn't around anymore. I mean, we've reduced it so much. How much more is really necessary?
Well, the coal-fired power plants now are the single largest source of carbon pollution in the country. And if we want to tackle climate change, we have to tackle this outdated technology. Really, we needed those plants when our country was first starting, because that's all we had. But there's new technology now, and we need to move beyond coal and start. No one's talking about shutting off, going home and sitting in the dark and pulling the plug on all our appliances. But we need to start the long process. It's going to take decades of getting off these fossil fuels and on to clean, renewable energy. It's every president since Nixon has wanted us to get off oil, and so this president's clean power plan is the start of us getting off these fossil fuels on the clean, renewable energy, which is going to put our people back to work with made in America solutions to our energy needs. We can't. We're going to hire electricians, installers, designers, you name it, to put solar panels and build windmills. And all of us here, for the first time, I've been here for a couple of years, Mark, and you have an advertisement for a solar firm to put solar panels on people's homes.
Where business is booming.
Yes, Solar City is now out in the east, and they are willing to put solar panels on your house for free and own those panels, and all you do is pay them a fee. As we move out of these old technologies like coal, oil, and gas, we're going to create a whole new business for our country and put our fellow Americans back to work with homegrown electricity, and not on these industries that have been polluting us and adversely affecting our health and safety.
What about nuclear power? Where do you see that fitting into the mix?
It certainly would be carbon-free, and to me, the choice really is going to be whether we can transition quickly enough into wind and solar. I'm not opposed to building nuclear. I'm not
And
one of those that's opposed.
Trillions of
Well,
dollars.
I look at the French where they have done it, where they have standardized plants, and every plant is the same, and it makes it easy to maintain.
Right.
Although there is still the issue of disposal of the spent nuclear products. I mean, is there a safe environmental way to do that?
No, there's not. They store them on site now instead of shipping them. The French were going to bury them underground, and the people in France went absolutely berserk. Said, no, you're not doing that. Because of that Fukushima accident in Japan, Germany is retiring all their nuclear power plants and going strictly to renewables. And the solar industry in Germany is the second largest industry behind the auto industry. So here you have a company that has gone all in, as opposed to us. We have this great technological engine sitting on idle. We should be the world leader in solar and wind, and we're not. We import Gamesa is a Spanish company that came into our country, and we're bringing that technology in from Spain, for God's sakes, when we should be the leader in solar and wind.
What about hydrogen?
Got a caller.
They talked about that, and the byproduct would be water.
Yeah, I don't know enough. That technology is too far in the future, I think, to be, a meaningful answer to.
But shouldn't that be something we're looking at?
It
too?
is. I would say yes.
All right, Proper Century 101 continues as Joe still has 1,000 questions for our guest, who is Ed Perry of the National Wildlife Federation. We have an open line, 1-800-795-9565. That's 1-800-795-9565. Bob from Williamsport, thanks for checking in. You're on the mark.
Call, and I'm all for solar power, but I think that's the way we need to go. I do have a question, which is, I've heard that the percentage of electricity lost in power lines is upwards of 60, 70, 80%. And that's also a major issue. The inefficiencies in our power system and our power grid now isn't so much at the base of it, but it's en route to the homes and facilities that it needs to get. Is that true? And are there major issues with the power lines and losing electricity on those lines?
That's exactly right, and that was one of the president's plans. Part of the president's Clean Power Plan is to upgrade our grid system. I mean, the grid system is 100 years old. We need to fix all of those things to make our system more efficient. So you're exactly right. There's a lot of inefficiencies in that power grid system, and unfortunately, a lot of it's above ground. So every time these extreme weather events we're having more of tear down all these power lines, they put communities, whole regions out of power for 4, 5, 6, 7 days.
All right, thanks for calling in, Bob.
Thank you.
Very much appreciated. Cindy, you're on the mark. Thanks for checking in.
I find it interesting that the speaker brings up that Gamesa, did you call it, that windmill company from Spain? Because Governor Rendell lured them here to Pennsylvania and they built three plants where they made the blades for windmills. And they did it because the Pennsylvania taxpayers were picking up the cost of this by funding these jobs. And as soon as we ran out of money in the Great Recession, they have abandoned us. And they've shuttered all those plants, and several hundred Pennsylvanians have lost their jobs that were supposed to be provided by alternative energy sources. I'm open to having alternative energy companies function here, but they need to pay their way. The idea that then somehow there's we should be paying for these jobs, paying for the profit that goes to the people who own these companies, who in this case took the profits and went home to Spain, as best I can tell. That's just ridiculous. That doesn't solve any problem. But here's my question. Let's imagine that you're king and you order all the power plants in America shuttered, all the coal-fired power plants shuttered tomorrow. No more pollution comes from those plants. How long until all these issues are resolved and the global warming stops?
Well, the first thing, let me first deal with that issue about why Gamesa left Pennsylvania. The first thing is that the renewable energy industry, unlike the fossil fuel industry, gets subsidies from Congress to develop that industry. And they have to go back every year and ask Congress for these subsidies to make them, to help them get going and make them competitive with the fossil fuel industry. This is exactly what our country did in the early 1900s to help the fossil fuel industry get going. But instead of subsidies, we gave them tax breaks that are built right into the tax code. And unlike the renewable energy industry, even today, the fossil fuel industry gets billions of dollars in tax breaks that are funded by us. Just in the Gulf of Mexico alone, they get $4 billion of tax breaks. Just in the Gulf of Mexico alone. That doesn't count all of the coal mining and the oil drilling that they get these production tax credits built right into the tax code. So the fossil fuel industry has a distinct competitive advantage over the renewable energy industry. And the government was right to help them, because if you look back at our history, every time there's been some major initiative, from the developing the Rural Electrical Administration to the railroads to the barge lines, every major initiative was initially helped by the government. So if the government continues to fund the fossil fuel industry by these tax breaks built right into the tax code, it's only fair that they should help this new technology, the wind and solar industry, help them along.
Well, I think it would be fairer to the taxpayers, and I 100% support this if we abolish these tax breaks that you say that the fossil fuel industry gets. Completely abolish them.
I agree with you.
Make them
Yep.
tote the line.
Yep, I agree.
Everyone should be
All right,
paying.
you have an additional brief question, Cindy?
That's not going to happen. Now, to get to your second part of your question, here's the scary thing. If we stop burning all fossil fuels right today, no more carbon pollution, the temperature is still going to go up somewhere between 2 and 3 degrees Fahrenheit, globally average temperature. That doesn't sound like much, does it? In the past 100 years, we've gone up about 1.5 degrees, and look at all the changes that 1.5 degrees has caused. The Arctic sea ice is at its all-time lowest level. There's been cubic miles, 5 to 10 cubic miles of ice have melted off the Greenland and Antarctica ice sheets, which has been partially responsible for the 8-inch rise in sea level that has occurred in the last 100 years. We have more extreme weather events. The West is literally on fire. In the last 50 years, there's only been 3 times when more than 9 million acres have burned, and it's all happened in the last 6 years. There's evidence all across our country and all across the world that this 1.5 degree temperature increase has caused these dramatic events. And so we're headed for another 2 to 3 degrees, even if we stop burning all fossil fuels right now. So the faster we can get on the process of getting off these fossil fuels and onto clean renewable energy, the better chance we will have of stopping the worst, what they expect, and that is a temperature of increase of somewhere around 7 to 11 degrees. Just imagine what our planet will be like with that kind of temperature increase.
All right, thank you so much. We have to take a quick break. We're going to be back on WKOK's On the Mark.
Every price on every new Kia has been reduced and retagged to the lowest prices of the year. You'll fall for a new Kia at Sunbury Motors Kia with 0% APR financing. Yes, 0 for up to 60 months on all remaining 2014 Optima and Optima Hybrid. The iconic 2014 Kia Soul starts at an incredible $14,769. Sunbury Motors Kia has 2014 Rio's clearance price starting at $14,951. The 5-star safety-rated 2015 Forte LX as low as $16,865. And 2015 Serenos starting at $22,456. Remember, all new Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. So hurry in to Sunbury Motors Kia on the Strip at Hummel's Wharf or at sunburymotors.com and fall for your new Kia today. Tax and tags extra. Must qualify. Specialty incentives applied. Special financing to well-qualified customers through KMF.
Hello, this is Justin Charles from Lenape Solar. Did you know that through energy savings of almost $5 million per year, our customers are saving the environment the equivalent of over 98 million miles of driving and eliminating the annual carbon dioxide emissions of over 5,600 homes each year? Do you want to know how to be a part of these amazing numbers? Call us at 286-1496 or visit us online at Facebook or lenapesolar.com today and find out more about our exclusive Buy American partners for solar energy and energy-efficient lighting upgrades.
Construction companies, let's talk value. Your clients want it, their clients want it, and you deserve it too. That's why JCB, the world's #1 backhoe manufacturer, is introducing the new JCB 3CX. With telematics and a 5-year warranty, both standard, it's the best value backhoe in Pennsylvania. Ready to lease today from only $7.99 a month at Stevenson JCB. Go to jcbpromo.com/new demo. Offer valid until December 31st, 2014 on select new models at participating JCB dealers and is subject to JCB finance approval.
Now there's a new way to find your wild. PennsWilds.com guides you through Pennsylvania's great outdoors with articles that are serious, humorous, and always informative. You'll find outdoors PA features with the Pennsylvania Game Commission covering hunting, licensing, and wildlife. Learn hunting safety, brag about your hunt, and upload photos to the Ram Trophy Room. PennsWilds.com. Brought to you by Ram Trucks and the rugged 2014 Ram 1500. Explore the wilds of Pennsylvania at PennsWilds.com.
If you don't want to waste your time and gas driving to work, you can call Vanpool with Yusta. Employers, do you have employees who need help with transportation? Call 1-877-877-9021 for details or visit online at yustatrans.org. Vans are available now and ready to go. That's yustatrans.org. You used to commute, now you can Vanpool with Yusta. We take care to get you there.
You're the poetry man. You make things all right. Yeah.
I thought there was a woman named Phoebe Snow who was a singer. I don't know much about music, but I remember that. Thank you very much, Kevin.
You don't know much about railroading either if you don't know about Phoebe Snow.
Oh, well, no, I remember. You dredge that story up from time to time. I remember that. So, 1-800.
From the bowels of my mind, right?
It's your phrase, not mine. All right. Welcome back, everybody. This sure
didn't deny it.
Beats work, and we are enjoying On the Mark, WKOK's live telephone talk show. We invite you to call us 1-800-795-9565. 2 emails pending, both of which can be addressed to both of our guests here today. Joe, the climate curiouser person than ever before, and Ed Perry, who I always call an expert, and he always shakes his head no, from the National Wildlife Federation Pennsylvania Outreach Coordinator for their climate campaign.
But I'm curious. Can I ask Ed this one question? Do you mind? Come on.
I do
Give
mind.
me a minute. All right.
I
won't ask the question then, Ed. You'll just never know what I was going to ask you.
I'm dying to know now.
Ask it later. All right. Second smartest woman in the world says Google chairman Eric Schmidt announced on Monday that Google has cut ties with the right-wing group ALEC because their climate change denial. Schmidt said climate change deniers are really hurting our children and grandchildren and making a world a much worse place. We should not be aligned with such people. They are just literally lying, unquote. And then she follows up, Melissa does, and says, why is it that people like Kevin, Ben, and Joe continue to deny climate change when all scientific evidence proves that the Earth is warming a lot faster than at any time in the past? What are they afraid of? The truth?
Why doesn't Melissa listen to what people are saying? Did I say anything to deny climate change?
I
ask questions.
No,
we're not allowed to ask questions, Melissa, in your world?
Joe and Kevin are skeptics. And Ben is obviously a denier.
No, I'm saying that climate change is natural, and we may be doing a little bit more to accelerate it, but not to the length. No, listen, science says that it happened well before we were here, so you can't say it's not a natural part of the cycle.
Ed?
Well, that's
there once was an ice age.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Kevin. Our Earth has cycled in and out of warm periods over time, but arguing that that we're really not responsible for it, or really can't influence our climate, is kind of like saying, we're all going to die, so there's no point in really taking care of ourselves. There's nothing we can really do to influence
Don't look both ways before crossing the street.
We all know that's not true. We've already seen that we can not only have significant adverse effects on water quality all across our country and then are able to fix it. We've already seen that we can have major air pollution in our major cities and have been able to fix it, why is it such a leap to think that we cannot actually influence our climate by putting the one thing in our atmosphere that scientists have shown causes a planet to heat up?
I think the big problem there. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead. That's good.
How come he got to ask his question? I didn't get to ask mine. Huh?
My big argument, though, with the whole situation is that it is happening. We may be influencing it, but not necessarily at the extremely exorbitant rate that some want you to believe. And also, I hear that we can stop it. No, you can't stop it. You can slow it maybe into its natural course, but that's about as far as you can go with it.
Well, if you look at the data, for the past 16, if you would look at if I would show you this graph of temperature over time for the past million years, we actually were slowly in the past 1,600 years going into the next ice age, up until around 1850, when that temperature curves started to go up. And it's right at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution.
Okay.
It's pretty well established that we were actually going into an ice age, and putting that carbon into the air has actually reversed that trend, and now we are headed into uncharted territory that's humans have never experienced. And we're looking at a temperature increase of somewhere around 7 to 11 degrees Fahrenheit unless we take action. This is not a minor thing. This is not minor.
All right, Tony, thank you for calling in. You're on the mark.
At first, I'd like to know who was collecting data a million years ago.
I was going to ask that myself.
You said about the West is burning. Isn't that due to arsonists? A lot of it anyway? And to forbidding the undercutting of growth in the forest?
Well, let me ask you your first question. Who was there a million years ago? Well, the scientists have been drilling holes in the Antarctic and Greenland ice cap, and they bring up the ice core that was put down, and they can actually count the rings in the ice, just like the rings on the tree, and they've got data going back almost a million years. And they bring these ice cores.
That ice has been there a million years ago. It's still there today.
Yes.
So it's not melting.
Yes.
Isn't the Antarctic ice cap? Isn't that growing?
The
Antarctic.
The shelf around the Antarctica is actually growing. But let me finish that the point I'm trying to make. So they've got about a million years worth of data, roughly, and as they bring these ice cores up, they analyze them for the gases that were put down at that time, and they can correlate the gases and the ratio of different isotopes of oxygen to the temperature at that time. So they've got a pretty good record, not only of what the CO2 levels were, but what the temperature was at that time. So that's how they know what the temperature.
Within a degree or two.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's not an exact science, because like you're getting at, you don't have somebody sitting out there with a thermometer.
It's not an exact science. It's exactly just like global warming is not an exact science.
But
because there could be no consensus among scientists. There's always going to be one that disagrees.
Well, there certainly is a consensus, but there couldn't be 100% agreement. Thank you, Tony. I got to take another quick break to stay right on schedule, and then Joe's going to ask this question that is.
Either that, or I'm coming over there and taking over.
Joe's going to be catbird here shortly. All right, let's take that quick break. It is bottom of the hour, so let's do that. 1-800-795-9565, the telephone number. 1-800-795-9565.
Every price on every new Kia has been reduced and retagged to the lowest prices of the year. You'll fall for a new Kia at Sunbury Motors Kia with 0% APR financing. Yes, 0 for up to 60 months on all remaining 2014 Optima and Optima hybrids. The iconic 2014 Kia Soul starts at an incredible $14,769. Sunbury Motors Kia has 2014 Rios clearance price starting at $14,951. The 5-star safety-rated 2015 Forte LX as low as $16,865. And 2015 Serenos starting at $22,456. Remember, all new Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. So hurry in to Sunbury Motors Kia on the Strip at Hummel's Wharf or at sunburymotors.com and fall for your new Kia today. Tax and tags extra. Must qualify. Specialty incentives applied. Special financing to well-qualified customers through KMF.
Hurry to Biters Home Center today for our huge 48th anniversary sale with incredible store-wide savings and 0% interest financing for 1 year. Since 1966, Biters has been offering quality name brand appliances, furniture, electronics, and bedding at guaranteed low prices, like a famous Eden Pure 5000 BTU infrared heater for just $147. Save on some great furniture deals like a microfiber power chase recliner, only $249.99, or an Ashley oversized sofa for just $297, and a dual reclining chase sofa is now $447 at all Biters Home Centers. We've gone all out for this sale, offering tremendous values in every department, including appliances, where you can take home an Amana large capacity 9-cycle washer for a low $337, or get an 18 cubic foot frost-free refrigerator for just $427. We're offering these savings and more throughout the store for a limited time only, so we hope to see you at our 48th anniversary sale, where you can shop with 0% interest financing for 1 year now through 5 p.m. Sunday at one of our 5 conveniently located Biters Home Centers.
See store for complete financing details.
Have you ever had a job that nurtures your soul? At Home Instead Senior Care, we know it takes a special person, not a special degree, to be a caregiver. If you are this type of caring person, consider joining us at Home Instead Senior Care. We assist seniors with personal care, cooking, light housekeeping, and errands. All easy tasks for you, but so helpful to seniors. Call Tammy or me, Beverly, at 522-6533. We would be happy to talk with you about becoming a Home Instead Senior Care caregiver. To us, it's personal.
Steve Jones for the Steve Jones Show. We'll talk about the Steelers, Eagles, and the Nittany Lions getting ready for Northwestern on homecoming. 3 to 5, News Radio 1070 WKOK.
They're not that far apart.
I would totally agree that this Congress is...
Their primary purpose in life is to get reelected.
It's hot, hot, hot. Welcome back, everybody.
Sorry, Mr.
Joe and Ed. Joe has learned more in the past 40 minutes.
And it'll be gone at the end of the day.
That's
right.
That's right. Than he has all year. And, yes, all that information to be lost in a big hurry. Well, welcome back, everybody. Joe McGranaghan, mayor of Shamokin Dam, happens to be a registered Republican, but a real free thinker. It does have an open mind on the concept of climate change and is learning a lot from a man who knows a lot. Ed Perry, National Wildlife Federation, Pennsylvania outreach coordinator of their climate campaign. Kevin Hur, the greatest engineer the world has ever known. Our webcam is up and running. Please watch the webcam, and you can watch the show. It also serves as an archive. Go to our YouTube channel, and you can watch the show if you so are interested. Sunbury Motor Company is the main sponsor of our program. Lenape Solar sponsors the email in basket. Our topic is climate change. We talked a little bit about the president's clean power plan, and we're going to talk about a loophole in the Clean Water Act. NWF.org is the National Wildlife Federation's main website. Joe McGranaghan has had a question for Ed for hours, and it's
not
just
for hours.
Just going to pop if he doesn't burst it out.
But we're talking. Ed made the point about to Cindy's question about the government funding research in these areas to make sure that these companies have at least a shot at prospering, as we have done traditionally for emerging industries all of my life and probably long before that. But the question I have is that this isn't as far as it can go. I mean, it seems to me that we're still not at the end point when it comes to solar and the end point when it comes to thermal or what do you call it? Geothermal. Right, lighting and heat. But what about aesthetics? If we took today's technology and decided we're going to convert, as you suggest, to entirely non-fossil fuels, how much of our landscape would be taken up by windmills and by solar panels? It seems to me like it would be huge amounts of the forest that would be gone, the hilltops would be gone, and everywhere we look, we'd see windmills churning.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question, Joe. For solar, there's a revolution going on right now that more and more people are putting solar panels on their homes. So that's not going to have much of an effect on the landscape. The only ones that are going to have that kind of effect will be out west, like we talked earlier about these big solar industrial sites that take up, many acres. But for us in the east, I've already looked into putting solar panels on my house. As my neighbor, he's got solar panels on his house. And I think there's going to be a revolution. And I think I mentioned earlier about Solar City coming into Pennsylvania. And they'll put these panels on your house for free. And they will own them and maintain them. And all you do is pay them a fee. So once
what do I get out of that deal? I'm not certain from the way
your
you expressed it.
electric
What am I getting?
bill, you get a reduced electric bill. And you are part of the process of getting us off fossil fuels.
Okay.
That's what you're getting.
All right, Dave, thank you for waiting. You are on the mark.
Good morning. 2 questions. You guys brought up about how they've been drilling in the Arctic to get the information from the core samples. And I can't understand it because I keep asking this, but there was an article in the papers a year or so ago that when they were drilling these core samples, when they got down to the ground, there was ferns. So,
Ferns?
is
Ferns,
the
did you
world
say?
trying to get back to the way it was millennia ago?
Dave, did you say ferns?
Ferns.
Ferns,
that,
okay.
Plant
Plant
that
life.
would grow in the tropics.
Okay.
That's question 1. Question 2 is, since there's more coal usage in the world today than, the latest figures they have is 2012. But from 2008 to 2012, coal usage increased by over 100 million tons. So even if the U.S. goes off of coal usage, but the rest of the world keeps increasing coal usage, how is that going to affect anything other than making the U.S. economy suffer and increasing the world's economy?
All right. Thank you very much, Dave. We're going to put that to him, and we're going to combine it with another email. You want to stay on the line, or do you want to just listen?
No, that's all.
Listen there. Okay.
Had those 2 questions. Thanks, guys.
Great. Yeah, and a like-minded letter writer sent us a note, says, since coal usage worldwide increased 1 million tons over 2008 to 2012, even though we keep reducing coal usage in the U.S., but the rest of the world keeps increasing coal usage, how will this lower climate effects? Why should only the U.S. be hurt with lack of jobs and production? Okay, very similar questions. Your view on this, Ed Perry?
No, that's a very good point. If we're the only ones that are going to take action to reduce our consumption of fossil fuels, this is not going to work, because this is not like Las Vegas. What goes on here doesn't stay here. So we are going to have to be a world leader in this, because really it's the developed countries in the past 100 years that have caused this problem. It's not China, it's not India, it's not Africa that has caused this problem with global warming. It's us and the other developed countries in Europe. So we have a responsibility to become a world leader in this, and as the United States has been a world leader in everything else. I mean, really, we're the world leader in the economy of the world, and if we take action to reduce our emissions, believe me, we're going to be a beacon for these other countries to take action, like China and India. And this is probably going to surprise you, but China is already a world leader in producing solar panels. They know they are killing their own people, and they have gone all in to begin the process of getting off these fossil fuels that are harming their people. They know it, and they're going to do something about it. So another thing you'll be interested in 2009, we almost passed a bill in Congress that would have put a tariff on goods coming into the country from any country that did not also reduce their fossil fuel consumption like we were doing. And that bill failed. So we had a chance to do it 5 years ago, And the same thing could happen today if we could get our dysfunctional Congress to do something other than deny that global warming is happening.
All right, 1-800-795-9565. Last caller before the last break of the day. Buzz, thank you so much for calling in. You are on the mark.
Great show. I really love hearing about this stuff. I was just curious from a psychological point of view, listening to the believers and the deniers. Does your speaker today think there's any credence to the thought that people who live in an area that doesn't really seem to be affected are not as likely to believe in it as those who live in the dry places that are suffering drought, like Arizona where the lakes are shrinking, or California where they're in drought, or along the coast where the seas are rising? Are those folks in those situations more likely to believe in global warming than folks like us who really don't really see much? Just wondered.
Yeah. It's remarkable to me. I know I'm kind of stuttering over this. When I first started 7 years ago on working on climate change, I thought I would be able to walk into a room and show them all the data that the scientists have collected all the years. And after a couple of years of giving presentations on this, I've learned that it almost doesn't matter if someone has already made up their mind that global warming is a hoax and it's not happening. Even if they're being personally affected, like the people in Norfolk, Virginia, where sea level rise is happening faster than almost anywhere else in the world, even that is enough to convince them.
All right.
That surprises me, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Buzz. Very much appreciated. We do have to take another quick break. We will do so, but we invite more questions. Ed Perry is here. We got to talk about the Clean Water Act a little bit before we're done here, a little bit more about the President's Clean Power Plan, because it does involve eventually solving some of these topics we're discussing. Ed Perry, National Wildlife Federation, is our guest. Toll-free line is open, 1-800-795-9565. That's 1-800-795-9565. Lenape Solar email in basket is open. Email on the mark at WKOK.com. We'll hear the email, nasty email we just received, so we'll be reading that in a moment. And it makes reference to Kevin, so he gets to respond accordingly also.
And me.
And oh, okay, yeah, that's, well, not necessarily.
A little more derogatory about me, I think, than about Kevin.
All right, we'll hear that in a minute. And the main sponsor is the man who provides, or the company that provides, the 2014 Ford Escape with the four-wheel drive EcoBoost Titanium Edition and the Sync stereo system. It's the Sunbury Motor Company.
Every price on every new Kia has been reduced and retagged to the lowest prices of the year. You'll fall for a new Kia at Sunbury Motors Kia with 0% APR financing. Yes, 0 for up to 60 months on all remaining 2014 Optima and Optima hybrids. The iconic 2014 Kia Soul starts at an incredible $14,769. Sunbury Motors Kia has 2014 Rios clearance price starting at $14,951. The 5-star safety-rated 2015 Forte LX as low as $16,865. And 2015 Serenos starting at $22,456. Remember, all new Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. So hurry in to Sunbury Motors Kia on the Strip at Hummel's Wharf or at sunburymotors.com and fall for your new Kia today.
Tax and tags extra. Must qualify. Specialty incentives applied. Special financing to well-qualified customers through KMF.
Mobile Deposit is here at the Northumberland National Bank. Use your Nori Bank mobile app on your smartphone or iPad to log in. Take a photo of your check and enter the deposit amount. It's a convenient alternative to visiting your local branch to deposit 1 or 2 checks. Plus, there are no lines, no paperwork, and no worries. With Mobile Deposit from the Northumberland National Bank, banking just got easier. Download the Northumberland National Bank's app now for your convenience. Try it and see how easy it is to have 24/7 account access at your fingertips.
We're used to dealing with problems, standing by you through it all. But whenever it comes to service, you'll find we're always well versed. At Northumberland National Bank, the customer always comes first.
The Northumberland National Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
At Northumberland National Bank, the customer always comes first.
Cole's Stony Hill Tree Farm is filled with fall fun. Now through November 2nd, Fridays through Sundays, roam the maze and also browse the Christmas shop. Price is just $8 for adults, kids 5 through 12 and seniors $5, kids 4 and under free. The Pumpkin Patch is open, and beginning September 27th, enter the Build a Scarecrow contest with Facebook fans judging the best. You could win cool prizes. Get details at colesstonyhill.com. Cole's Stony Hill Tree Farm. Just follow the signs from the red light in Washingtonville.
Great. Real music. Finally, one concert's going to go through tonight at the Bloomsburg Fair. Chris Young, and that's the bumper music you hear. So, Kevin, I don't know that you're going to the show tonight, but if you are, you're going to hear real country music tonight, so that'll be wonderful. Let's see. One of our letter writers sends us a note. It is not signed, but it says, "Why this contempt for science from the bald guy and your button pusher in the other room?" Kevin's the button pusher. And
I would be the bald guy.
Well, but
Ed's a little followingly challenged himself. Yeah, maybe they meant you, Ed.
I think they're talking about me.
But I don't think there's contempt for science.
I think they need to check the balance on the radio, because I don't think they're hearing both sides of the speakers.
This is natural.
Well, it points out the problem with this issue and so many others. And I find that liberals are becoming more and more intolerant of people asking questions. Can you ask a question and get an answer? I think when I've asked Ed a question, I have listened to his response in its entirety, and I've only asked another question if something he said triggered something. But I don't believe we have been discourteous to you, have we, Ed?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
All right. One of our listeners sends us a note. We can read one paragraph of it. It says, "With Monday's announcement, more than 800 global investors, including foundations such as the Rockefeller Brothers, religious groups, healthcare organizations, cities, and universities, have pledged to withdraw a total of $50 billion from fossil fuel investments over the next 5 years." Another letter writer says, this would fit nicely in Marktopia because there won't be any Walmarts there. It says, "Why don't we put solar panel arrays and wind turbines in vacant Walmart parking lots? After Walmart uses up their corporate welfare incentive tax breaks, they close up and move to the next community. Let's take over that vacant lots by eminent domain and use them to benefit the community." So we got that.
Well, a lot of people are looking, and you might be surprised to know that the Borough of Shamokin Dam is looking at installing solar panels to help cut our cost of electricity.
I'm not surprised. You are a forward-thinking borough, if there ever was.
A lot of people are looking at that, and you would be insane to deny the science behind that technology and the fact that I think they're guaranteed now for like 30 years and 20 years at almost full power, and that it is possible to save money with them if you have the land and the space. And I think
the upfront money.
Well, and the upfront money somehow. And I think it's a good idea, but I do question. I go back to the aesthetics part of it. If we all do this, all we've got is solar panels everywhere. To me, it's like the cell towers on the hilltops. You used to be able to look at a hilltop and see a beautiful pile of trees and some beautiful scenery. Now you see cell towers.
Well, think about this. Look at all the telephone poles and the electric wires. Those really are ugly. But we've had them our whole lives, and we don't think anything about them.
You're right. They're ubiquitous.
They are. Yeah.
Well, look at roads.
Yeah.
When we just had paths, or maybe a 2-lane path so that you could get a buggy through. Now we have macadam and concrete roads going all over the place.
So with all this, we're going to add 6 zillion solar panels and 5 million windmills.
I think this emphasizes how much we're changing. If you see something unsightly we're doing today, we'll probably be changing it tomorrow. Cell phone towers are getting smaller. The phones are getting smarter.
But that's exactly what I meant. At what point does it make sense if all this technology is emerging and we're pumping money into developing more solar and we're developing more wind? Why put all this stuff in now when 5 years from now it might be much more efficient and we could put in 1 to do the work of 20 that we'd have to install now? I guess what I'm asking, Ed, is the state of the technology. Is it evolving enough to say that someday it's going to be a lot better in terms of what we need than it is today?
Well, I can't forecast that future. I just don't know. To me, putting solar panels on your house to me is attractive. I think it's a benefit, and it's going to increase your property value in the future. I think someone who's got solar panels in their house, that's going to be a benefit to their property value.
Well, and that is the issue. Look at Lenape Solar. When they opened their doors, they did have a showroom, but you almost had to have a solar panel that was the size of a van, a minivan, to generate electricity. Now you go down there, Tanya comes around the corner carrying a panel that generates more electricity than that other big panel used to. So the technology is evolving, but that is that's the heart of every matter. Why buy, at my house we bought a 94% efficiency boiler, and within 2 years 98% was available. So that is a big issue, but these are emerging technologies and sort of passing technologies. Things are developing as time goes on. Loophole in the Clean Water Act stands a chance of being closed. Ed, do you follow that a little bit?
Yeah, to set the stage for what's going on, I was born and raised in Cleveland, overlooking the steel mills, about a quarter mile from the Cuyahoga River, caught on fire. And at that time, Lake Erie was declared dead. And the country was in an uproar because our waters were not fishable and swimmable. So they passed the Clean Water Act in 1972. And up until then, we regulated discharge only into large rivers and streams that could now carry or had in the past carried interstate commerce. And the Clean Water Act in 72 changed all that so that we began regulating discharges all the way up into the headwaters and their adjacent wetlands. That was like that for 31 years. In 2003, the Bush administration, by rule, weakened protection for those headwater streams and wetlands. And so for the past 13 years, those areas have been removed from federal jurisdiction. The EPA now proposes a rule that does only one thing. It restores federal protection to those headwater streams and wetlands. That's all it does. There's no expansion. It's just going back to the way it was for 31 years.
It's a restoration of the rule. Cindy, you got a moment with our guest before we're done for the show?
Joe, I have been to the U.S. Department of Energy Solar Decathlon twice. It's an inspiring event. And let me say, they make solar panels, solar systems that are actually in your shingles. You wouldn't know the person had. So it isn't these big, bulky panel things stuck up on their roof. So, but let me say this too: the epistle from that organization, the Department of Energy, was first, do everything you can to lower your energy usage. And the president has repeatedly said the country's lowered its energy consumption by 25% over the last 10 years, which I think is a great thing. Thanks.
All right,
it is a great thing, Cindy, but it comes at the expense of incandescent light bulbs and these high, what do you call those things, fluorescent bulbs that you have to call a hazmat team if you happen to break one.
Right, but you also, it came, CDs came at the expense of 8-tracks, and cars came at the expense of buggies.
But it hasn't hurt, it hasn't taken away my light or made it more expensive for me to buy a light bulb.
LED bulbs, I bought a couple the other day at Kohl's, and I didn't pay any attention to afterward. My lovely bride, she's looking at the slips, and she says, that's a $12 light bulb you're putting out there.
I bought one of those and put it in my garage door opener where the old incandescent bulb would last for years. It blew out the first time I put the door up.
You have a warranty on those. There's a 2-year warranty on those. You can take them back.
Who's going to honor that guarantee, Ed? How many people save the box?
Kohl's
light bulb came in.
I do.
Do you?
I have got all those boxes for all my LEDs.
Can I borrow one of your receipts, Ed?
Yeah, you can.
And Kohl's does, because I had one of the Westinghouse bulbs that did. It was supposed to go down to like 0.18 Fahrenheit, and it was outside, and it blew long before then, potentially because of the cold on a super cold night, and we got it switched, and I ended up going back to a conventional bulb.
What kind of proof did you have to provide?
That's what I was just going to ask you.
Just the receipt.
Just the receipt.
But it hadn't lasted that long. I mean, only a couple months. I'll give you the last word with just 30 seconds of open mic, Ed.
Okay, well, if you are concerned about climate change and you support the President's Clean Power Plan, we need Senator Casey to speak out about this. So I would urge you to contact Senator Casey and ask him to speak out in support of the President's plan.
We just talked to him on the newsline. He didn't mention it, oddly enough, so we'll have to
You
make
think
sure.
Senator Toomey is a lost cause?
I do.
Ed Perry, National Wildlife Federation, NWF.org. Thank you so much for traveling from Center County.
Thanks for coming with us, Ed.
Pleasure to be here.
On
Thank
a bicycle, I might add. So, no, I'm just kidding, but fuel-efficient vehicle. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, everybody. Jay Paterno coming up on the Dan Patrick Show. So one noteworthy guest, and Steve Jones will elaborate on that this afternoon. This is News Radio 1070 WKOK Sunbury.